So you have an interview with EPIK coming up. Congratulations, you passed the initial application. At this point, you might feel nervous. I mean, I'm not sure how many people fail this stage of the application process, but the best answer I could come up with is at least some people. So, when I came up on my interview, I was very, very nervous. But I passed, and now I'm here in Korea. So, I'm going to give you 3 tips of what I think will help you give the best interview you can. These tips are not going to include dressing nicely or testing your Skype connection or making sure your room is well lit. Honestly, these are kind of the basics. So these are the 3 tips that I wish I knew going into my interview that would have made me feel much more confident. Number 1, flexibility and adaptability. Moving to a foreign country is not the easiest experience. You'll have to deal with cultural difficulties and rapidly changing schedules and adjusting your techniques and your lesson plans in order to fit within another country's educational system. This especially feels true in Korea, where schedules change on a dime and you just never know exactly what you might have to teach on any given day. So, oftentimes the interviewer will ask you a question about what you will do when your co-teacher maybe has some kind of critiques about your lesson plan. Or maybe it's a domineering co-teacher who wants to take control of all of your lessons. In that case, I said, first of all, if you have a disagreement with your co-teacher, that it would be very important to do so in your office, away from the students. In the classroom, you want to be able to work together and present a united front. On the other hand, I think it's also important to accept my role as a newcomer and someone who maybe is less knowledgeable about the Korean education system. I should be willing to take my co-teacher's critiques and at least think about them seriously, because there's a good chance that maybe he or she knows something that I don't, something that I can use to benefit my lessons in the future. As long as I stay willing to change my lesson plan and maintain an open mind, I think I will be able to grow and adapt in this new culture. It's honestly not even extremely important to have tons of knowledge of Korean culture or to be 100% informed about the history or the music or anything like that. The most important thing is to be able to display that you have an open mind and you are willing to be flexible to what other people say. Just explain that you are willing to learn and grow on a daily basis, because when you're living in a brand new culture, that's something that you really have to do, or else you're going to have a very difficult time. Number two, I would like to call realistic optimism. Well, let's take the second word here, optimism. Optimism means you're looking on the bright side. You see the situation in the future, and you believe that things will improve. That through effort and an open mind, your experience tomorrow can be better than your experience today. Now let's look at the first word, realistic. This is the opposite of idealistic. In the interview, it's not always the worst thing to say that things might be challenging at times, to admit that you might have a tough time off the bat. Things might be difficult. I remember one question my interviewer asked me. He said, in some co-teaching situations, the co-teacher is often either uninvolved or not even present at all. And what are you going to do in a situation where you are the lead teacher and you are fully in charge of a class of students? And I was completely honest. I said, look, that might not be the most comfortable situation at first. I think that I would have some growing pains initially as I learned how to work within that situation. But as long as I'm willing to maintain an open mind to the feedback given to me by both teachers and students, I think that I will be able to adapt and adjust to the situation. You know, human beings are some of the most adaptable creatures on the planet, because when we get into new environments, we are able to change our behaviors in order to fit within a new system, within a new situation. And through enough practice and repetition and finding the things that work, I think that I can continue to grow until whatever situation I'm in will become my new normal, and I will go from barely surviving all the way up to thriving. So when I say realistic optimism, this is opposed to idealistic optimism, which is basically saying, oh, like, I don't care, that's no problem. I'm going to be just fine. There will be no issues there. While you want to show the interviewer that you are confident and that you are going to be able to handle a challenge, it might be a bit of a red flag if you don't anticipate problems. Everybody who comes to live to a foreign country, they're going to encounter problems and difficulties. I mean, it's very rare when people come and live in a brand new culture that things do not get difficult at times. They will. But as long as you're willing to admit, like, look, I can be flexible, I can work within the system, and I can adjust my behaviors in order to match whatever the school might ask of me, I think I can make this work. I will be able to get the job done to the best of my abilities because I know that I can adjust my techniques as necessary. So, number 2, realistic optimism. You can feel free to say that sometimes things will be difficult or present a negative as long as you're willing to counter it with an optimistic positive. And number 3, this is crucial. So at the end of the interview, the interviewer will likely ask you if you have any questions for him or her. Always ask a question. If you ask a question, it really shows your genuine interest in the position. It shows how committed that you are because this is your opportunity to seek information. And if you don't take this one opportunity to seek information in a face-to-face conversation, that's a big red flag of your commitment and of your willingness to work with others and to clarify things that might be of concern. You don't have to ask superficial questions like, oh, how much will I be paid? Or, oh, will I get placed in Seoul? Look, a lot of those answers are on the website or on blogs or message boards. They're very easy to locate. I would say the best question that you can ask is something very qualitative, something that only the interviewer can answer. The one that I asked that I think made a big difference was, what is it that you look for in an ideal native teacher candidate? And he was straight up. He answered that they should be flexible, that they should be willing to motivate students, and that they should be adaptable. Basically, he stated those 2 times. That's how important adaptability and flexibility is when you go into the interview. I was very surprised, honestly. They didn't ask me anything about Korean history or culture or why I was interested in living in that country. They were very down to the point of like, how is he going to adjust moving to a new country, trying to learn a new language? Is he up for the task of dealing with obstacles as they might present themselves? And I think that that is a huge key for passing the EPIK interview. Here's one more bonus tip that I just thought of, which is sometimes the interviewer might ask you about your attitudes towards alcohol. This one's interesting. Initially, I thought it was a trick question to just basically weed out the alcoholics, but I also think that they also want you to know your attitudes towards alcohol because in this country, whether you like it or not, alcohol can be a big part of many people's lives. Soju and beer are very common indulgences in many school functions. So the way I answered it was I said that I like to drink some from time to time, but not all the time. But what I do know most importantly is that if someone older than me offers me a beverage, I really should accept. And the interviewer actually made a wonderful correction that I think that you should all remember, which is this. If someone older than you offers you a beverage and you don't drink alcohol, it's perfectly acceptable to substitute a bottle of cider. So pouring the shot of cider into the cup. By the way, cider is a Konglish word here that we use for basically Sprite, lemon lime soda. So you can still go through the ritual of pouring each other the shot, but he'll pour you the shot of the cider and you can cheers and knock it back. Problem solved. It's a thing if you don't drink that you can still kind of fit in to the cultural scripts and the social scripts, and I think that that is Very important. So thank you. I hope you learned something today, and best of luck to everybody in your upcoming interviews. And until next time, il chui wo jang. Let's get it!